I was a big gamer growing up, and to be able to contribute to these games, it's a really wonderful time. Where I enjoy being, or my passion is very much at the intersection of art and technology, and that could be in film, that could be in a experiential environment in a physical location, or that could be in a digital entertainment company with assets and creative components. At the end of the day, it's, I enjoy pushing technology to make better, more efficient, more cost-effective, or higher quality art. Um, let's go with all of the above on that one. That's really fun and really exciting to me. I think I got that bug a long time ago, a digital domain. When I was a production assistant, there was nobody that nobody was supporting the production of this one meeting, which was called the STACS meeting, the Statistical Creative Technology meeting. And there was no producers there. It was the CTO and a bunch of CG supervisors. If you know your visual effects, CG supervisors are kind of if you have your visual effects supervisor being the head creative and making the calls on art, your CG supervisor is kind of a partner to that person on the creative side, but also very technical. If there's a 3D asset, that CG supervisor will make sure that that asset is proper. And so a lot of the CG supervisors and the CTO would get together and talk about their new shows. We're going to do Maleficent. We have a dress on a full CG pixie character, and it's entirely a fur sim, but the fur sim is actually flowers. So we have to flower sim her entire dress, and it has to work in 600 shots, and we need to do it cost effectively. We're going to have close-up facial animation. She's going to jump in the water and has to get wet at one point. How do we do that? And there are a lot of smart people in the room. And so I fell into being the production assistant in the room taking notes. And that ended up turning into kind of a career in the technology and art world, kind of being fascinated about what we can do with technology to push better and more efficient art.
And that's how you learn it. That's how you learn it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. AI is coming. It's here. There are things that AI can do well. There are things that AI can't do very well just yet, we'll say, depending on who you ask. Maybe it won't get there. Maybe it won't get there just yet. A lot of my experience has to do with building databases that utilize AI for deep search knowledge, as well as utilizing various pieces of AI and programs of AI in specific elements of a pipeline, of a greater pipeline of art. And so I'm not saying what company I would work and do this with, but one of the things that we've worked well in the past is not AI prompting a 2D asset or AI prompting a 3D asset from start to finish, but maybe AI being a piece of the pie. For example, say you have a concept art and you're going to make a character, right? Sometimes AI, depending on, as it's trained in various fields, right, they're better at certain things. Like if you're looking at characters because it's trained on human images a lot, that's pretty good. If it's looking at, say, an intricate piece of a hard surface asset that has to interact and be rigged in a very specific way, that might not work as well because it's not trained in that specific element. And so I started as a production assistant on Avengers 1 way back in the day. That was a fun one. Running around making coffee and tracking shots, tracking visual effects shots. We had roughly 400 awards in that movie. Some of the big sequences we did were, I don't know if you remember, this is the first Avengers, this is a while ago. So I don't know if you remember where Loki goes into the subway and then he transitions to the space world and then he has the conversation with the guy with the gold, all that gold stuff.
Yes.
That was one of our sequences, as well as a couple others. So we built that entire area. I remember one of the key things. I don't think too many people know this. That original creature didn't have any of that gold on there. That was a late call that we added. That was a very, very late call. It didn't look cool enough, and I think the director said, "Let's go ahead." So that's entirely CG. So I started on Avengers, then I moved to Maleficent, 47 Ronin. Maleficent was a good one. We had quite a few shots with that, hundreds of shots at Digital Domain. And then I, followed the tax incentives as a lot of visual effects production people do. I moved to Montreal in 2013 and stayed there until 2016, working on X-Men Days of Future Past, Game of Thrones, season 6, quite a few other smaller. They needed somebody really bad. And so it was. I was looking for the next role, the next gig. I was, when I left Digital Domain and started a production company, and I did that for about 6 months, trying to put packages together. And so I would essentially take a script and I would try to get letters of intent from various heads of department or various actors and package it together and present in front of investors. We had a couple of good presentations, not any huge bites, and was eventually looking for the next job. MPC, Moving Picture Company, which was a division of Technicolor, just started a Montreal visual effects company, which was mainly due to the tax incentives. Visual effects and post-production is a tax incentive business. And I mean, just to be truthful, I think when I was in Canada, the Canadian government paid around 47% of my salary while I was there. So what happens when they introduce a lot of new tax incentives is sometimes these post-production facilities pop up. And so in Montreal at that one time, this was the first show or movie from Motion Picture Company. So they created a new facility in Montreal and got a lot of people from Montreal, from Canada, but also from a lot of different other places to kind of move and fill out this facility. So I worked for MPC for a little while, did X-Men Days of Future Past, Victor Frankenstein, which was a fun one. And then I moved over to Rodeo FX, which was across the street. Quite controversial to jump to the competitor across the street back in the time. That's where I did Game of Thrones. I did Warcraft. Warcraft was a really big one that we spent some time on. And I spent some time on the set for The Shack. I was I was kind of like the hitman for if you had a new show at Rodeo FX. And so I worked directly for the VP of Innovation and Technology. And so he was very much like an executive producer. And so he would bring in new work and he would be talking with a client and we would do test shots, right? We do 5 shots, we make a few assets, and we try to secure the award of that one movie, 400 shots or whatever that is. And you still need a team, you need a production staff to do those test shots, and you need to, wine and dine the client a little bit to make sure that that comes in. So that I was the production person for that, and eventually, if we secured that movie, I would gather everything and pass that off to the visual effects producer that was within the building. After a little while, I moved back to Los Angeles and started a virtual and augmented reality company with a few others. Did that for a few years. Back in 2016 when virtual reality was a big buzzword. That worked out pretty well. We actually had a good 2-year run before I fell into visual effects producing again. And at that moment, I became the visual effects producer for Wonderwell. It was Carrie Fisher's last movie. There is quite a few shots of a very, very large CG floating brass mask with smoke and tentacles and all kinds of fun stuff that was half practical and half CG. And we did quite a few shots from that, as well as 4 set extensions. And from there, I moved over to a visual effects producer for South Bay Motion Picture Technologies, and then eventually a VP of production, where I acted as the visual effects producer for 3 movies at the same time. It was Superfly, Miss Baller, and Overlord, being the robot, the bad robot zombie movie way back in the day. And Superfly was kind of a crypto gangster, shoot 'em up kind of thing. And Miss Baller was from the star of Jane the Virgin. I don't know if you remember that one. It was very much a femme fatale gangster. She kind of in a big red dress enacts her revenge with an M16. And that was a very fun movie as well. Like I want to make a tool that allows them to be able to look at and, oh, this is what this happens, and then I press this button, and then it gives me everything I need to know. I'm here. I'm your friendly neighborhood production person's here. Call me. I'll even chat with you about, hey, how's your, is your coffee cold? What's going on, right? Like, no problem. I'm open book. I'm always here. But if it's for every single asset, every single piece of the pipeline, it's not going to be sustainable. Your 5 producers turn into 10, turn into 20. And at the end of the day, production people get really mad when I say this. I don't do anything. I don't do anything. Do I make assets? No. Do I comp a shot at the end of the day? No. I help the team. I move things forward. I provide clarity. I budget, right? Do I produce anything physical? Producers, do we? Do I? No. So it would behoove the studio to have as few of me as possible. If you have 10 people to handle the communication of X number of things, that's 10 people on staff for salaries, that's pensions, that's bloat. It's oftentimes when you get more producers, more production people, more coordinators, they what I call throwing slacks at each other. Throwing images or throwing little text of it's done now, here's this, here's that. That's not the most efficient way. It actually creates additional confusion. Most of the time when you have those extra producers, right, maybe you have a few too many and are actually causing more confusion. Think of it as a larger system. And a lot of my experience comes from the large corporate entertainment world, big systems. If the information is in 6 different places, I used to say this, it's the law of nature. 5 of them will always be inaccurate, and the art director will always go to one of the inaccurate places. Every time. Eliminate all 5 of them. Have one source of truth. And go ahead. Yeah, once you have that one source of truth, then you can affect it and make it more and more accurate. Now you can add additional features to it. Oh, does it track time? Does it track artist workflows? Does it provide information of who the previous artist was and the next artist? Does it give them the ability to look at finance? Does it give your product people the ability to see the profitability of every single one of those assets, if there is profitability? If you're looking at a visual effects system, do you see it in a series of ones, which we call ones documents? An artist working on a single day on a single thing is a one. You map everything out to make sure that no time is wasted across the entire project. You work with other producers to horse trade. Hey, I need, Disney's really mad at me. We got to move this delivery up 3 days. Do you have 2 rigging artists? Yeah, but okay, we need them to. I suppose we could push our delivery down a little bit. Executive producer in the corner going, we might win that Disney show for $3 million. Give Disney the little bump it needs. That's the conversations that visual effects producers often have with their head of production.